All right, let's get into it. We're going to talk about an absolutely incredible story. A time when America, it felt like woke up rich and went to bed completely broke.
I mean, just imagine this. This was the shocking reality for millions of people back in 1929. There was no war, no obvious warning sign, just poof. A terrifying financial crash that changed everything, seemingly overnight.
So, you've got to be asking yourself, what in the world happened here? Well, to really get the fall, you first have to understand the party. And believe me, it was one heck of a party.
Okay, so let's jump in our time machine and head back to the 1920s. People called it the Jazz Age for a reason. I mean, this was a time of just an insane economic boom, this feeling of boundless optimism, and this core belief that the good times, oh, they were never, ever gonna end.
You know, the stock market basically became America's new favorite sport. And look at that number. Its value quadrupled in just 5 years. This wasn't just some boring investing. No, no. This was a national obsession. And it was all fueled by this dizzying and, frankly, really dangerous belief that the only way was up. Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting, because there's this hidden story. You had two completely different Americas living side by side. While the cities were having this massive party with new cars and new radios, rural America, they were already deep in an economic crisis. And this weakness, this huge crack in the foundation of the economy, was something almost everyone was just choosing to ignore.
So, for everyone living in the cities, a brand new national pastime popped up. Buy now, pay later. And I mean everything. It wasn't just for, a new vacuum cleaner or a car. People were even buying stocks with money they didn't have. Borrowed money. They called it buying on margin, and it was like pouring gasoline on an already raging fire.
And this feeling, this mania, it was just in the air. You could get stock tips from anyone, not just your banker, but from the guy shining your shoes, the hotel bellhop, and yeah, as this quote shows, even your local barber. Everybody thought they were a genius. But you know how it goes. Every party has to end. And for the Roaring Twenties, the last call came suddenly, and it was a devastating, earth-shattering crash. Just look at that number, $200 billion. That's in today's money. That's the amount of wealth that didn't just shrink, it vanished. It evaporated. In a few short hours, entire fortunes that took a decade to build were just gone, wiped out, and the country was just left in this stunned, deafening silence. And we have to be super clear about this. This was not a dip. It wasn't a market correction. As the slide says, it was like the stock market took a flawless 10-meter dive straight into concrete, a catastrophic, total failure that must have felt like the end of the world. And the thing is, the crash itself, that wasn't even the end of it. Oh no, that was just the first domino to fall in this terrifying chain reaction that was about to bring the entire system crashing down. And you can see exactly how it all spiraled out of control right here. So first, boom, the market crashes. All that paper wealth, gone in an instant. Then you get the margin calls. That's the brokers calling investors saying, hey, pay back the money you borrowed. But nobody had the money, so they panic. They rush to the banks to pull out their life savings, which causes thousands of banks to fail. And finally, the infection goes global. U.S. banks start demanding their money back from other countries, and the whole domino effect starts all over again across the entire world. And yeah, that global part happened with just terrifying speed. As American banks pulled their money out of Europe and Asia, their economies just choked and sputtered out. And in just 3 years, global trade got cut in half. The whole world was grinding to a halt. But it's so easy to get lost in these giant, abstract numbers, right? Billions of dollars, global trade. But this crash had a real, devastating, human cost for millions and millions of ordinary people. 25%. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. 1 out of every 4 people who wanted a job couldn't find one. Think about that. Factories just went silent. And the breadline, that became a grim, common sight in pretty much every American city. And you can really feel the bitterness of the era and how President Hoover's name got attached to everything. Hoovervilles, these shantytowns made of scrap metal. Hoover blankets were just old newspapers. People felt completely abandoned by their government, and these names, this was their way of shouting it. And that was the new American reality. You know, the American dream wasn't about getting rich anymore. As one writer put it, reflecting on that iconic photograph, Migrant Mother, it was just about surviving.
just making it through one more day.
But right when things seemed their absolute darkest, a new voice came on the scene: Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He shows up with this promise of bold, persistent experimentation and a whole new plan for the country, famously telling everyone, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
And Roosevelt's New Deal wasn't just one thing. It was this massive flood of programs, this alphabet soup of new agencies. You had the CCC sending young men out to plant trees, the WPA hiring millions to build the roads and bridges we still use today, and then things like the FDIC, which is still around, that insured your money in the bank, trying to restore trust. The goal was simple: relief, recovery, and reform. And then came maybe the biggest change of all. For the very first time, the federal government steps in to create a permanent social safety net, Social Security. This wasn't just a temporary patch. This was a fundamental, monumental shift in the relationship between the American government and its people. Now look, the New Deal didn't just magically fix everything overnight. People still argue about how effective it was. But what it did do was stop the free fall. It laid a new foundation for America to start climbing out of the ashes. And it was a long, slow, painful road back. As you can see, there were bumps along the way. And in the end, if we're being honest, it was the massive, all-out industrial effort for World War II that really, finally, pulled the United States out of the Great Depression's shadow for good. So when you look back on all this, the big takeaway isn't just about a stock market crash. This whole period forged a new America. It created a new social contract, and the really profound questions it raised about the government's role, about the rules of capitalism, about what we owe each other, well, those are the exact same questions we're still grappling with today.